You know that moment when someone answers your question and your mind goes blank? You ask, "How was your weekend?" They say, "Pretty good. I went hiking." And suddenly, it feels like the entire conversation is sitting in your hands. You could ask another question. You could talk about yourself. You could make a joke. But every option feels forced. So you say, "Oh, nice." Then there's a pause. The problem usually isn't that you have nothing to say. It's that you believe you need to find the perfect next thing to say. You don't. Most easy conversations are not built from brilliant questions. They are built from noticing one small detail, staying with it for a moment, and giving the other person somewhere natural to go next. A simple way to do that is notice, echo, open. Notice one detail in what they said. Echo it back in a natural way. Then open the conversation with one easy question or related comment. Let's use the hiking example. They say, "Pretty good. I went hiking." Instead of trying to invent a whole new topic, notice the useful detail. Hiking. Then echo it. "You went hiking?" Then open it. Was it an actual trail or more like a walk with a good view? That is not a perfect question. It does not need to be. It simply shows that you heard them, and it gives them an easy choice about what to talk about next. The reason conversations feel difficult is often that we treat them like an interview. We ask a question, get an answer, and immediately search for the next question. "How was your weekend?" "Good." "What do you do for work?" "Marketing." "Where are you from?" "Chicago." Nothing is technically wrong with those questions, but the conversation can start feeling like a form you are trying to complete. A better goal is not to collect more information. It is to stay with one piece of information long enough for a real exchange to happen. Imagine you are meeting someone at a friend's birthday dinner. You ask what they do. They say, "I work in product design." Your brain may immediately go blank because you do not know much about product design. But you do not need to know much. Notice, product design. Product design? Open. What does that actually look like on a normal day? Or, is that the kind of job where you're making apps look better, or is it something else? You are not pretending to be an expert. You are simply inviting them to explain their world in their own words. That is often easier for both people. A useful question is usually not the most impressive one. It is the one that makes answering feel low pressure. This matters especially when someone gives a short answer. Short answers can make you think, "They do not want to talk to me." Sometimes that may be true, but often a short answer means much less than that. They may be tired. They may not know you well yet. They may be waiting for a more specific question. Or they may also be trying to think of the right thing to say. So instead of treating one short answer as a rejection, treat it as information. You can make one more small attempt. If you ask, "How's work been?" and they say, "Busy," you could say, "Busy in a good way, or the kind where you keep looking at the clock?" That works because it gives them two clear paths. They do not have to create a long answer from nothing. If they say, "The kind where I keep looking at the clock," you have something real to respond to. "Those weeks feel so long. Is there one project causing it, or is everything happening at once?" You are not trying to keep the conversation alive by yourself. You are making it easier for the other person to add something. There is also an important difference between a follow-up question and a follow-up comment. Questions are useful, but if every response ends with a question mark, the other person may feel interviewed. So sometimes, after you notice and echo a detail, add a small related comment instead. Someone says, "I started learning to cook recently." You could ask, "What are you learning to make?" But you could also say, "That's brave. I feel like cooking is either very relaxing or you suddenly have 6 dishes to wash." Now they can respond to the comment, tell a story, disagree, or talk about what they have been making. A small comment tells them something about you, too. It makes the exchange feel more shared. You do not need to tell a long story. One sentence is enough. Think of conversation as passing a ball, not performing on a stage. You receive something they said. You return it with a little more shape. Then you wait. Here is what that can sound like in everyday situations. At work, a coworker says, "I'm heading to Seattle next week." Instead of saying, "Oh, cool," try, "Seattle? Is that for work, or do you get some time to explore, too?" At a coffee shop, someone says, "I'm reading more lately." You could say, "What kind of books pull you in enough that you actually keep reading?" On a date, they say, "My family is really into board games." You could respond, "The friendly kind of board games, or the kind where people stop speaking to each other for 10 minutes? In a group conversation, someone mentions they recently moved. Try, "How are you finding the area so far? Have you found one place you already like?" Notice what these lines have in common. They are not clever. They are specific enough to be answerable, but open enough to allow a story. Another helpful habit is to listen for words with energy. People often give you a clue about what matters to them through the words they emphasize. Maybe they say, "I finally got to see that band live." The word "finally" has energy. It suggests a story. You could say, "Finally? Had you been trying to see them for a while?" Or they say, "My manager randomly changed the whole plan." The word "randomly" has energy. You could say, "Randomly changed it? How?" You are not looking for the most interesting topic in the world. You are listening for the word that already seems interesting to them. This can also reduce overthinking because it gives you something concrete to do. You do not have to predict the entire conversation. You only have to listen for one detail worth staying with. Of course, this will not make every conversation flow. Some people are distracted. Some are in a hurry. Some do not want to continue talking. And some conversations simply end after a few sentences. That is normal. Your job is not to prevent every pause or make every person open up. Your job is to make one clear, low-pressure offer to continue. If they give another very short answer, you can let the conversation breathe. You can shift topics. You can share something small about yourself. Or you can simply move on without treating it like a failure. For example, if you ask, "Busy in a good way or the stressful kind?" and they say, "Just busy," you do not need to rescue the moment. You might say, "Yeah, those weeks can be a lot," and let the conversation rest. That is still socially capable. A pause is not proof that you did something wrong. This week, try one experiment. In your next conversation, do not focus on saying something impressive. Listen for one detail. Echo it back. Then ask one easy, specific question, or add one small related comment. Notice, echo, open. You do not need a perfect next line. You only need to show that you were there for the last one.